Are you a game changer, rule breaker, or just interested in the latest tech? If so, don't miss the largest gathering of tech and cyber pioneers the North has ever seen. DTX Manchester is returning to Manchester Central on the 2nd and 3rd of April, bringing you the very best tech solutions from local and global providers and helping you stay at the cutting edge and solving tomorrow's problems today. As part of Manchester's Tech Week, DTX Manchester is definitely not one to miss, powering the Northern Tech Revolution. This is the Secure CyberConnect podcast with Jay Adamson and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information and cybersecurity, technology and talent acquisition professionals who share their journeys, unique perspectives and offer advice and guidance. Our topics on this episode will be the BS within cybersecurity and why it hurts as a discipline. Today we're absolutely delighted to be joined by Stuart Coulson. Stuart is a seasoned business strategist and mentor with over 20 years of experience across diverse industries. Currently serving as the Cyber Ecosystem Project Manager at the University of Manchester's DISH Accelerator, where he empowers startups and entrepreneurs to thrive, fostering innovation and growth within the Manchester business ecosystem. Stuart's expertise extends beyond cybersecurity as he actively guides companies in refining their strategies, enhancing organizational culture, and achieving sustainable success. In addition to his role at the university, Stuart is also the founder of Hidden Techs, a consultancy that bridges the gap between security awareness and business challenges. With a deep commitment to career development and mentorship, Stuart has successfully built and led teams driving both individual and organizational excellence. As a dynamic speaker, he also shares his wealth of experience at conferences and events worldwide, and his ability to connect with many diverse audiences and offer insights has made him a sought-after voice in both the business and cybersec communities. Recognised for his contributions to the industry, Stuart was recently honoured as Cyber Mentor of the Year at the 2023 Unsung Heroes Award. Stuart, after that fantastic introduction, welcome to the Secure CyberConnect podcast, and thank you for joining us today.
That was absolutely amazing. Honestly, you can write my epitaph. You can do the whole lot. Let's say you're hired. That was amazing. Properly good.
We're going to have to start renting Jay out, I think, at coming events to do some introductions. Well, look, Stuart, myself and Jay, really looking forward to today's session. And before we kick things off, could you share with the audience a high-level review of some of the topics and themes you're going to explore today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks very much for inviting me onto this absolutely fabulous podcast. I only picked it up recently, so I've been on catch-up listening to a lot of your podcasts, and I'm honoured to have been asked, honestly. I'll kind of sum up it into three that Jay picked up on. The first one is the Manchester cyber scene. It's growing. It's absolutely amazing scene out there at the moment. The other one is we do want to kind of get into a bit about the startup world, get some tips and advice out there. That's my day job, and it's good to share some of that advice out there. The final one is the one which is where I'm giving you this as the scoop, is this year's 2025 Cyber BS Bingo. I'm launching it via you in preparation for DTX, which is coming up. Hopefully there's not too much BS in Manchester. But yeah, we'll go through some of the themes and the topics that come up out of that as well.
That's really exciting. Looking forward to that. And we asked this question to all of our guests. Can you share with us something that you're proud of, excited about, or perhaps want to shine a light upon that isn't typically on your LinkedIn?
Oh, okay. Most things are on my LinkedIn, to be fair. I'm very transparent. It's going to sound a bit ego, but it's only because my award is there, and you mentioned it, which is my mentoring award. One of the things I'm really proud of is impact. There's a lot of people in our industry who say, and there's not many people who do, and there is a growing number of people now who are realizing this and they're starting to change their attitudes and become doers. And that's really cool. I'm really super proud of my career up to date and the stuff that I've impacted. Things like, wow, I mean, it's just, I've done this recently for my own kind of retrospective, and it was looking back at things like the old NCC group days and the sales training stuff I was doing there, and Cybersecurity Challenge, literally helping people get jobs in cyber. They've just recently closed, and it was absolutely, it was gut-wrenching to see the amount of people who just reached out and said how amazing that was and how much we helped them in their careers. And now I've got all these completely new startups to deal with who are like turning their businesses around, or at least showing them where north is, which can be quite interesting for some of them. And I think for me, that's kind of what I would say is my biggest thing that's not out there, because I don't like saying, hey, I do all these amazing things. It's not really my nature to do that, but it is sometimes super proud of it, is the impact that I have made. And yeah, it does feel a bit weird to say it, if I'm totally frank with you. But yeah, impact is probably what I'd say there.
I appreciate you sharing. And Jay and myself have spoke to a number of leaders in the region that have worked with you and worked in partnership with you, and all of them had really commendable things to say. So thank you for your contribution.
I owe a lot of £5 out there then, don't I? Wow.
Could you kick things off by maybe talking us through some particular, a significant challenge or incident that you maybe faced in your career that kind of shaped your view on cyber, really?
Probably my biggest significant challenge is mental health, but that hasn't changed my view on cybersecurity. I wear that really big on my sleeve, is the mental health side of stuff. I'd say the biggest one is probably the learning curve of cybersecurity. When I came in, I was not aiming at all to be in this industry. I took a job because it's a sales job. I went from sales to sales. And here I am 20 odd years later, still in the land of cyber, waffling around, doing all sorts of jobs. But I think the biggest thing for me was I stepped away from keyboards a long time ago. The fact that I had to rebuild my PC last night because it died is irrelevant, but deep dive techie left me a long time ago. One of the things I would say is that I found it really tough to not be technical in cybersecurity. You go into a meeting and everyone's literally throwing acronyms at each other. And sometimes you have to just put your hand in and go, what are you all on about? And people look at you as though you are the dumbest person in the room. And I think we are now seeing this maturity of an industry whereby we are realizing that people come first and we need to speak a human language. And it's not blinky cyber LEDs anymore. There's actually this wetware, this meatware, and we have to talk about them. It's called people process technology, not technology. And I think that's, for me, is what's changed my view on cyber, is this change that, we're seeing the death of the CISO and the rise of the BISO. Why? And that's because tech is dying and business is taking over. And I think, I'm quite happy to say I'm probably one of the early adopters into that space at the moment, is that BISO space. But yeah, that's definitely been the biggest challenge, is just not being technical enough. And also being old, can't learn.
Not as easy as it is when you're young.
Not at all.
So, and also maybe whilst we're kind of looking back on things, was there a particular mistake that you kind of made early on, and what lessons did you learn from that?
I've made hundreds of mistakes. God, where do you want me to start? Do you want an entire episode on every cock-up I've made in my career? We'll be here a long time.
What stands out?
Definitely keep your horizons wide. At one point, I was going down the route of OSINT. That was absolutely my North Star. Loved it. Oh, worst mistake I made. I probably lost about 6 months of my life doing that. I think that shoehorning myself into job titles, that was probably the biggest mistake I made. Instead of chasing the job title, what I ended up doing was chasing the role, chasing the company, chasing the network of people I was around. That was when literally the handbrake was off to go. And I really saw that as an acceleration in my career point there. Stop chasing job titles. In a major incident, the last thing you want is a single point of failure in a human. If that person's unavailable because they're the only one who can do exchange, game over. I'd rather have a team that can all do a bit of exchange and we can muddle through for an incident. We get to the end of it. I'd rather have that than single point failure of job titles. So definitely stop looking at job titles.
Yeah, fair enough. So sort of going into sort of some of the topics we're going to talk about a bit more. We want to talk about the North-South divide, obviously. For years the North-South divide has been hotly and widely debated issue in a lot of the business and tech landscapes. And historically, the South, especially London, has always been historically kind of touted as the epicenter for investment, higher salaries, opportunities. But we're definitely now over the last few years seeing a shift with cities like Manchester and Leeds and Newcastle more recently rapidly emerging as sort of tech and cybersecurity powerhouses. So despite this sort of progress, and there is obviously a lot of challenges still remaining, we're still seeing funding disparities in talent migration and salary gaps between the North and South. What's driving the growth of these northern tech hubs, and how do they compare to London in terms of opportunity and innovation?
Wow, great question, that one. I think it goes back a little bit of history here. I'm not going back as far as the ancient stuff, but definitely when we had terms like Northern Powerhouse, that was a very, very early 2000s term. If you look at things like National Computing Centre spawned NCC Group then spawned the likes of MDSec, Pentas Partners, and those brands that suddenly took over the world. Definitely there was a buzz that happened in the early 2000s that would definitely put the North on the map. I also think little things like when B-Sides suddenly got a presence up here with B-Sides Manchester was huge. It was the second one really to London. We then got Liverpool. Now we've got Leeds. It's phenomenal. We've got SteelCon. The conference layer is that horizontal band from Liverpool over to Leeds and Sheffield. And it's, dare I say, it's a lot more exciting up here. We then suddenly got this attraction up here of like GCHQ taking a presence up in the Northwest. That was a really big marker, I think, for the industry in the last 5 years to say things are changing. We're starting to see some movement upwards for other industries, but definitely London's still predominantly fintech and investors. So one of the things you do suffer with in the Manchester region is, specifically in Manchester, which is where I'm based, is the lack of investors, the actual people sat there to talk to. So if you're in London, you want to go and speak to an investor, walk around the corner, there's 10 of them. If you want to find one in Manchester, there's 2 of them. And that scale is going to be a problem. When you see that move investors north, game over, man. London will be history in probably 2 years. We are already seeing that there. We're already seeing this move happening. We're already seeing some of the big finance houses moving. Bank of America, well, for as long as they're going to be here for. And the big houses are here. And then all of a sudden, almost overnight, we got the announcement there's a 7,500 seat government office going to move to Manchester as well. So the power shift is now moving. I also think it's this devolution of the UK is happening. Manchester is seen as that second hub. Although it's second in size to Birmingham, it's not the second in economy. And I think that's the other region that we need to think about is why Manchester? There's a lot of people here who are looking for jobs. Yes, in Birmingham, the difference is a skill set. I mean, I'll put the advertising hat on. University of Manchester, the largest university in Europe. We've got 14,000 staff and 47,000 students or something like that it is. We have one of our faculties is bigger than one of our neighbouring universities. It's like mind-blowing stats. If you're looking for talent, just stick your hand in the air and say, are any students available? And you get 10 of them. And I think that's where, again, if you're looking for a next move and you're looking for talent, it's just easier. You go to London, and when you got an overinflated wage, and it is overinflated, we've got a saturated talent pool. They're all fighting for the same 3 people. Why?
I think you're absolutely right about the university's influence. I think in Manchester as well. But just touching on the wage sort of issue you mentioned. I mean, we cyber related salaries in Manchester. Is there an argument to say they should be on a par with London? You've said they're overinflated in London, but based on an increasing number of roles within the north and the increasing demand for talent, which is nowhere near as prolific as the southeast. Which, of course, then makes it far less attractive to relocate. Do we think that the salaries should be going up in this region? What's your thoughts?
Oh, if you want to pay me some more money, yeah, perfectly. Yes, definitely. Everyone gets a pay rise. I think the reality of the matter is no. And it's a very unpopular opinion that we say no. Why is London more expensive for a wage than Manchester? That's the killer question that actually underpins all of this. In Manchester, beer is cheaper, rent is the same as London in certain areas, but not all areas. Food is cheaper than London. So are we going to pay them an overinflated wage just because it creates this market need? The answer to that is no. We've already got a problem in cybersecurity. Cyber is expensive. If you're a small, medium company of 100, 200 people, you try and buy security tooling, you're already millions down the bank. Before you even start about it, your CISO's 150, you've got a bank of managers in there, all the 70, 80s, then you've got your staff underneath it at 40, 50s. Don't talk about your training courses at 23 grand a pop. Then you've got to buy your vendor tools at a couple of million each. It's just, no wonder people can't do security.
Well, I think this is the big problem, isn't it? I think this is half the problem at the moment with companies that, they just don't want to, they're seeing it as just an expenditure that they can't stomach. And
100%, absolutely 100%. But we're only going to exacerbate that if the wage of the staff you're hiring is also in the extra digits as well. If we make Manchester and the north, let's put it over to Leeds as well in the great horizontal line across the UK. If we created a talent pool here, which is heavily educated, which we've got 3 academic centres of excellence right here in the Northwest, if we then have a cheaper workforce, we now become attractive. And suddenly business will wake up to the fact that you can hire the talent, it's here, and it becomes a very quick saturation of our market. We can then start getting these bums on seats as quick as possible. You know, before we started, Warren, you were saying, there's 3 million jobs in cyber. We know that's not a true number, but there is a lot of jobs still out there. But how are they going to be filled if we're only looking at London? The answer is you can't. If you look at Manchester, if you look at Leeds, look at Sheffield, look at Newcastle, there is available talent sat there right now available to hire. And it makes no sense to then go, well, I'll look at London then, especially if I say, and they're £5 cheaper. Well, I need 20 people. It's 100 grand. No, 10 grand. Math isn't a strong point.
I think this has been exacerbated a bit by obviously the remote working as well. I think with so many companies now kind of pitching in for boots on the ground, bringing people back in. We've got clients that, are rigid now about so many days a week in the office. And there's an impasse. It has to sort of break through where people then sort of, having more realistic expectations on colloquial talent. Just sort of finishing on this, a topic. What other steps do you think need to be taken to ensure that the North achieves its ambition of becoming, the UK's leading cybersecurity and overtaking London, as many of us up here would love to do?
I think we definitely need to, Sorry, Warren, we're giving the South an absolute back.
We're still in here for the benefit of our audience.
So just a bit of balance, BBC. But I think the first thing we need to capitalise on our successes more. The North has never been very good at shouting out its successes. We're a doer. Manchester's known for doing things differently, but we are a doer. We're not a shouter. I will look at the South for this one. Sorry, Warren. But they're very good at shouting about, we've just done this one amazing thing. And North kind of sit there, we did that 10 weeks ago. We're just carrying on doing it, though. We need to have that better marketing of Manchester-ness. I think that's the first thing I definitely have out there. Also, continued support. It's all right having these schemes that fire up, and then after 3 years, the money drops. You need to have that continual drive behind it, because schemes don't take 3 years. Schemes take 10 years. Been in enough of them to know how quickly they can die without funding. And I think that's the other thing. We're really fortunate at Dish, which is where we've got Manchester City Council firmly behind it. We are literally giving them success story after success story. And that's really what they capitalise on, because they can go to Midas trying to get the inward investment from other countries, and they can say, look at all these companies we work with. It's amazing. Look at all this stuff we do. And they do. They come to Manchester and they go, wow, we've never seen this before. And when you say they've never seen it before, but they've been to London 3 times. And the answer is, well, what do they see in us that they don't see in London? The answer is that do attitude. We just need to market it better, is my gut reaction to it all. We're definitely not short on ideas and innovation around here. I mean, crikey, with the amount of universities we've got up in the North, you can't help but say the word innovation and ideation out there. But I just think that, we just need to market ourselves a lot better. And that's going to come over time as people do start tasting the Manchester beers and go, it's cheaper up north and it's better beer. It's not as warm.
I certainly agree with you. And we've seen businesses sort of pre-pandemic, eye up the North to spin up specialist hubs, for instance, not remote bases, but little pockets where they can attract talent from, as you mentioned, academia. But we saw that shift. I think going back 12 months ago now, we've seen a lot of more major players perhaps pivot back to in the office and sort of scale back the teams and close those remote and virtual offices as such in the North, which have been frustrating, not just for the talent out there, but of course the organizations that are looking to grow in the region that rely on some of those individuals perhaps working at the larger enterprises, exploring how best to work in terms of process and communication, softer skills, because some of the startups rely on those enterprise organizations to draw from the talent. But we are hopeful, platforms such as the podcast and the community itself and the events that we're going to speak on later, hopefully it can raise awareness of not just the talent and the businesses and the bright minds in the North, but really the community up here, because it is second to none.
100%. It's one thing that I always love. We've got someone on our most recent cohort who came up and they just said, I love Manchester. And it's really funny. I see someone just literally fall in love with the city. You know, we walk around it every day and we stand in the same puddles every single day. And they jump in the puddles like, you okay? But yeah, there's definitely something about Manchester that's different. You know, something in the water, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, we do things differently. It's definitely in the culture.
Good Tony Wilson quote there, to be fair, Stuart.
I'll go through them all if you want. I've got to get the Alan Shearing one and Emmeline Pankhurst. You've got to do them all, otherwise Manchester evaporates overnight. So yeah.
Look, Stuart, myself and Jay, and obviously those that are in the cybersecurity community, and they understand what a cybersecurity ecosystem project manager is, and even what a cybersecurity ecosystem may be. But those perhaps that are listening today that are coming from a more broader technology landscape or background, perhaps won't have an understanding of that. So for our audience, could you explain exactly what a cybersecurity ecosystem is, as well as your role as an ecosystem project manager and how that differs from other traditional cyber jobs?
I've got to laugh because my kids ask me and everyone asks me, so what do you do for a job? And it's like, it's the hardest answer to possibly give. Let me start with what I think a cyber ecosystem is, or let me just kind of broaden it to an ecosystem. So I think an ecosystem is sustained concentration of initiatives, ideation that come together around a central theme, like to promote cyber or something similar. So my job in its shortest form is to make Manchester the home of cyber. That's its shortest form. I do it because we've got a set of targets that are given to us that they're based around a set of key OKRs. Let's use all the acronyms. We're on a cyber podcast. We've got to use an acronym now, of course. My role is essentially, mentoring, going and doing digital skills outreach, CV tips and career training, helping social networks. It's a really, really varied role. It's not something you're going to find in the UK Cyber Council Handbook of Jobs. You don't get a CISP and then go and do my job. Absolutely not. I don't think there is a qualification for my job, apart from be out there and having done it. And it's a very unique role. I landed in this one completely by accident. Well, a little bit of guidance from a very good friend of mine. If you ever want to change job, go for kosher Chinese first. But yeah, shout out to Danny for that one. But yeah, this is a role which I find quite unique. I've only found a few out there similar to it, but they have both the job titles. But yeah, this ecosystem that we've got here, it's quite a unique role, fun role. That's definitely something I would say. It's a fun role.
Yeah, I see it as much similar to ourselves. You're a facilitator, you're a connector. You bring both individuals and organizations together and connect the dots. So yeah, we do appreciate all the hard work you put in them. And types of organizations that typically require an ecosystem project manager, what does that look like? And how do they benefit from having someone like yourself involved in the business?
That's a really great question, actually. I would say most organizations don't need a me. They need to interface with a me. I see the enterprise side as being, you sometimes see job titles like community manager. That's the what I say is the other side of me. So on one side, you got me, who's the glue between companies and schemes and ideation and all that kind of really cool stuff over one side. But someone in the organization has to own their piece of it and where they want to interface with it. And I think that's where the community manager role, again, it's not a cyber role, it's just a role. It helps if you've got cyber knowledge because you can translate your internal conversations to external conversations. But yeah, it's a very interesting role in terms of how it lands in the landscape. You're right in terms of the glue between businesses. That's a really good description, that connector. I think that's why I attend so many events. I'm literally at events like April's wiped out. I think my family sees me about 4 days. But yeah, but you have to go to these places to find who are the upcoming people, who do I need to connect to where. And sometimes they don't have this community manager type role, and it's just somebody who's got a good idea or loves connecting themselves. But the value it adds, is huge. A really good example of that is if you have a major incident and you don't have an internal pen test team, who do you phone when it's a crisis? You all know that if you phone the local pen test company, they've just added a 0 on the bottom of the invoice because you're in a crisis already. But if you've got a mate you can phone up who knows somebody, that internal referral, they'll probably fix the problem and invoice later. That's what you really need in an incident. That's the kind of thing that an ecosystem can bring together. Your partnerships, those connections that you don't get just by picking up I'll show my age now, picking up the yellow pages and just dialing. You have to know the people to ask. You know, it's like if I wanted a podcast, would I ask Warren? I don't know. I want to ask Warren if I know him. So I have to go and find Warren to go and have that conversation. And that's really my role, is to know Warren exists. So when someone says, hey, I want a podcast, I go, speak to Warren. That's how it realistically works in the real world. But yeah, definitely the glue between is a very good description of that role.
That makes sense. And what do you feel the biggest challenge is when it comes to managing cyber ecosystems, and how do you overcome them?
Finding people. There's not enough time in the day to go around every human being and say, what do you do? That's the first biggest problem I've got. I mean, just even within university, 14,000 staff, somebody's looking for an AI person. Where do you start? I mean, you can't just go Control F AI. Yeah, that it's a scale problem. It's a genuine scale problem. And when you think how big Manchester is, 12 boroughs or regions, and then we've got to think about over to Leeds. And so I've been speaking to a really cool company over in Hull recently. They've come from Manchester. They've moved over to Hull, but they've got really big Manchester roots. So they still are trying to keep into this ecosystem over here. And you start thinking, well, how to glue this lot together? I've got to try and, I've got to pop over to Hull at some point. Pop over to Hull. It's an overnight. So I think that's the biggest problem, is just sheer scale of Manchester. And if I say the far side of Wigan to Saddleworth is a horizontal line, and you look at it on a map, I mean, for those who aren't from the north, go find those two places on a map. Go find Wigan and go and find Saddleworth on a map. And look how big horizontally that is. And then you look in the middle, this big blob that's called Manchester. You say, oh, I thought that was Manchester. No, it's all of it. Huge area.
Greater Manchester's getting bigger and bigger. We're up in Marple Bridge on the borders of Derbyshire. And we've just had a letter saying we're now part of Greater Manchester.
Welcome back.
Looking about, one of the things we touched on at the head of the intro was that we're going to be looking at sort of startups and scale-ups and looking to sort of cut through some of the hype on this. The startup space is full of overhyped solutions, lots of empty promises, lots of so-called innovation that doesn't really solve a thing. And a lot of founders that, are more often than not chasing investment over sustainability, building tech that nobody actually needs or wants, and underestimating sort of the harsh reality of scaling a business. With initiatives like Dish Accelerator and the hands-on expertise, that's provided from Hidden Text, could we sort of maybe strip away some of the nonsense and talk about what truly matters when building a successful cyber company? So, as most cyber startups are genuinely sort of solving security challenges, or is it just rebranding the same old ideas to chase funding? And what would you say separates real innovation from recycled buzzwords?
Oh, now we're into my territory. I've got to put the salesman hat on now and just go, wow, where do you want me to start? That's a superb question, Jay. Genuinely, I would say there are some startups out there chasing it. If you've got to say the word AI, otherwise you don't get investment. And that's the sad reality at the moment. The investment market in the UK is so poorly served because the investors are going for the latest buzzwords themselves. They haven't yet picked up on the value in non-AI and non-quantum world. I'm going to give you 4. I won't name them. I'll be very nice and won't name them. But here's 4 startups for you. One, monitoring insider threat and presenting it to the board using AI algorithms to basically the dashboard and say, Warren is your insider threat. Now that's new. No one's produced that tool. We've got stuff that's similar to like DLP, and we've got stuff around that, but no one's actually looking at behavioral analytics, not in a, I was going to name them there, in the other big brand that nobody really likes in cyber, not in their world, but we're talking about genuine looking at behavioral patterns, not traffic that's coming off that machine patterns. How about someone who's doing large behavioral models? So we've heard of LLMs, large language models. What about large behavioral models? So if I gave you my device, it would say, you're not Stuart. So you can now integrate that into a security tool and go, give that to a government agency, and it'll immediately deauth and go, yeah, you're not Stuart. Because it's understood how I move and how I use my device, and it can then generate that pattern and go, but you're not Stuart because you're not using the device the same. Deauth the end of the device. It could, that's brand new. That's like, let's go back to the 2000 words. That's bleeding edge. There's a guy at Dish at the moment who's making an app, and I'm desperate for him to get this thing live. He's making an app for employees of businesses. You basically fill it in, you use the app, and it gives you your neurodiversity signature, and basically says these are the accommodations you need, which for all year is absolutely gold dust. Because now you go, why is Jay not very good at his job? Well, he needs a set of headphones, he needs a quiet space, and please can you stop, harassing with targets? Oh, that'd be really nice, because now he's going to work at his optimal. Pay the extra 270 quid, which is the NHS fee. You now get you actually get your ADHD diagnosis. That is 8 years shrunk to 3 months.
I was about to weigh in and say that's fascinating, because the challenge a lot of our guests and community members are facing is getting that diagnostic and getting the support, as well as obviously the price tag attached to it.
Yep. So if you now think a business can say, well, we'll fund the 270 quid because we're already in the DIB cycle of trying to put in place the accommodations and stuff, it makes sense to look after our staff. And very soon we'll probably see Bupa or one of the big healthcare will say, well, we'll fund that 270 quid, or we'll be the agent that can give that. Now, all of a sudden, you've got diagnosis at your workforce level. I mean, that's just huge. The value to the UK PLC of one guy with a really good idea is just phenomenal.
No, it sounds really exciting. We work with a partner actually coming out of the US, got a similar product. It's not backed by the NHS, of course. However, it essentially gives some sort of micro learning, deal with well-being, burnout, mental health, gives you advice and guidance all in small chunks. And I think these technologies are going to be critical moving forward.
Absolutely. Here's a different one. So we all know in businesses you get critical and complex change. Okay, so we go through this stuff a lot. We're going to go cloud native, or we're going to move from Google to AWS. How do you explain that? How do you explain that to everyone out there who isn't in your team? So I'm working with a startup at the moment, and I have to read this because it just, first time I read it, I was like, what the hell? A creative who is building spaces that bring to life the stories of critical and complex change. And I saw some of this person's work and I'm like, mind blown. Oh my God, I get that. Absolutely. I understand what you're building. And I'm looking at her client's work going, I get that. Absolutely get it. Because when you're going through change within a business, it's not just we're changing these bits and bytes and these servers and this infrastructure. People have to change the way they work. There's new processes. How do you communicate all that? Now just wrap it into one graphic. And you go, oh, well, it makes a lot more sense now, because people are visual learners. Why do we doodle on pieces of paper? Because those pictures are what bring story to life. Now you apply that to cyber, and you start going cyber training, cyber policy change, critical change in cyber. You start going, wow, okay, no one's doing that space. I mean, that's like, okay, are we recycling buzzwords there? There's a little bit with the AI one at the beginning. We can hear the insider threat and behavioral pieces, but this is brand new. I am not saying that there aren't startups out there who are absolutely rinsing it for the funding to go and get a little pet project off the ground, exit within 2 years. Absolutely, they exist. But I do see some little glimmers of hope out there, and Dish is definitely a home for some of those. I would definitely put the salesman hat on quick back on. But I'm exposed to this on a daily basis. I do worry, though, when I see the big corporates of cyber. Their innovation layer, not quite fighting the same battles. You only have to walk around InfoSec and you start going, ooh, not much innovation this year then. And, where's Sophos? Where is Norton? Where are the antivirus vendors that we used to have to shell out every year our 70 quid at home for? Where are they now? Where have they innovated to? Well, they've got an AI engine now. Well, yeah, so is everyone else. And I do see there's a pace difference. And to come to the question, which is like what separates real innovation, is when you see it's not a buzzword, it's the theme, it's the drive, it's the passion. That's the different message.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of obviously some of these these nuggets that you've kindly shared in terms of the the innovative startups, Yeah, what are the harsh realities that many founders ignore or fail to prepare for with some of the lesser salubrious and innovative startups, for example?
Yeah, it's quite a harsh one. I mean, I've seen a couple of startups fail, and my job's personally investing with these people. I sit down with a cup of tea with them. We don't go into formal meetings. It's literally sat in a brew in a kitchen area normally. And when you see it's failing or has failed, I would say it generally comes down to two reasons. One of those, you've got a technical founder who's no idea about sales, no idea about chasing the money. They're just building something. And they're generally bootstrapped because it's a passion project. When the wife or the other half turns around and says, how are we paying the mortgage this month? That's when you know to close your business. And unfortunately, I've seen one of those. Now it's really quite sad to see go. They literally were so passionate about their project, put all the money into dev, nothing into marketing, nothing into sales, exit company. That is absolutely down at the investment loop. The investors aren't ever going to see if you can't talk about your product, and you've got to have that salesman hat on. And I think the other piece is people who have really great ideas just can't communicate it. Just have no idea how to say what I do. We all remember the sell me the pen message and tell me your elevator pitch. It's kind of still there, but some of these people, I literally see what you're doing, and like 20 minutes later, they're still going. You go, the attention span of a human being is 8.25 seconds. You did lose me 19 and a half minutes ago.
It's a tall building we're going up in that elevator in.
It's a hell of a building. And I think that is a problem. So the two things I'd say is definitely not chasing the money and not at least keeping an eye on where the money's going to be coming in from future. And the second one is definitely not being able to communicate what it is you do.
We've tried to sort of address that with our networking sessions throughout 2024. They reached over 3,500 individuals, and they were fairly unique 1 hour sessions every Friday. And you're dropped into a call with 4 other people, no more than 4 in each call, and you're each given 90 seconds to give a high level overview of who you are. So that us facilitating that give a lot of founders an opportunity to give that high level pitch, and of course build confidence when they're talking with your strangers, for instance. And it's something we're going to be looking to bring back later in the coming months.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely something which the startup community should really pay attention to. In 90 seconds, you should be able to articulate. So I talk about 3-minute pitch, a 1-minute pitch, 10-word pitch, and a 5-word pitch. Well, 3-word pitch technically, but most people streak it out to 5. What do you guys do? Let me ask Warren and Jay, what do you do?
Community enablement and engagement.
4 words, community and engagement. Okay, yes, you do 4. Very good. But we now understand what you do. And that's really critical. When you're a startup who literally just, what do you do? I do an AI enabled this with a fandangle that does this and connects, confabulated, that then does this. Game over, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just again, to the finishing on this particular segment, if there was one golden rule or so-called golden rule of startups that, in order for them to succeed in cyber, what would it be in your opinion, and why would you go for that?
Manchester, we're going to do it different. I'm going to give you 3. To any startup I've ever mentored will hear me say this, and they're immediately going to roll their eyes and go, oh God, he's off again. Same 3 questions. What is it you do? Who do you sell it to? Why? So I'll give you a really good example of that. Tesla Cybertruck. Might as well, it's topical to talk about Tesla these weeks. What do they sell? Electric trucks. Why do they sell them? Because they want an eco-friendly truck out there. They want to be a challenge in the US market. Who do they sell it to? People who buy F-150s every 6 seconds. Why is Tesla Cybertrucks failing overnight? I'll give you a clue. Because they haven't got the who. Then we get people who haven't got the whys, the absolute target audience. They've got the product, no idea why they're in the market space. They're just kind of selling things because it's Tuesday. And they don't have the passion in their own business, and you see them fail overnight as well. If I flip it into a non-cyber world, Timpsons, what do? They fix your shoes. Who do they sell it to? People with broken shoes. Why do they do it? Because people break their shoes a lot. It's like Timpsons everywhere. Really simple model. So if I want to give you the 3, it would definitely, what does it do? Who do you sell it to? Why are you doing it? Yeah, Warren J, I know that you've got that one. What do you do? A really cracking podcast. Who do you do it to? people like me, techies and non-techies who are really interested in finding the next thing out. Why? That's an interesting question. Why? I've listened to some of the podcasts. You actually care. You really want to get this under the skin of people and really want people to care about it. And it comes through in your podcast. So why have you got a new listener in me? Because I've now hooked on it as well. Yeah, totally.
And look, we've discussed it a little bit, the challenge that the industry faces at the moment with overused terminologies, and vendors as well as business partners perhaps will just throw in these phrases such as zero trust, cyber resilience, AI-driven cybersecurity out left, right, and center. And I'm sure a lot of audience have been involved in games within the office environment, bullshit bingo, for instance. So tell us a little bit about cyber bullshit bingo, Stuart, and the positives and negatives to this approach.
So I started this before lockdown. It was my own personal joke. I attended InfoSec. I won't name the vendor, but they were talking about AI triangulation. And this, if I describe him, it was a physical description I would give. It was this young kid with his blue suit that was a bit shiny, his brown pointy shoes. His jacket was like a little bit too tight. And I said, "Oh, what is it you do?" And I said, "AI triangulation." I went, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "Well, do you have an AI?" And I thought, well, yeah, I've got a dark tracer. He says, "Do you ever triangulate it?" And I went, "No." He went, "That's why you need us."
Just go for a lie down somewhere after that.
Sometimes you just have to walk away going, what madness am I in? What madness is this? Find a dark corner. You know, I've done sales and I know the 101s of sales. That was not it. It wasn't even a 0-1. So I kind of thought, well, I did it actually at the event. I got my notebook out, the trusty notebook that goes everywhere with you, and started doodling names and words that I was seeing around, thinking, zero trust was just out at the time as well. And I thought, it's all just nonsense words. I'll be polite for the podcast. I'll try not to swear too much, but it was all absolute nonsense. And I thought, this is ridiculous. And then I thought, I know, I could turn this into a game. So in my hotel room on very drunk, I'll admit it, I wrote a blog, and it was the first ever BS bingo. And I'd found this way to make a card online. So I shared it with a few people and said, "Oh, play this game." And then literally people come up, I've just done it in the first aisle. I'm like, I'm onto something here. I really am onto something. This is just comedy gold. So I've run it pretty much every year since, is Cyber BS Bingo. And all I do is, before conference season starts, I watch who's doing what, who's saying what, the marketing hype that comes out there about the APT group that's going to cause Cybergeddon this week, and going, "Oh, Cybergeddon, put that one down." and I just basically started compiling this list of just nonsense that gets talked about. So I then I got told off by a few friends, you've got to calm this down a bit. It's getting a bit, pointy on the face now. You're literally bludgeoning people in the face, and it's their job.
You may get a cease and assist.
Yeah, I hadn't got one yet, but I definitely feel like there's one edging out there somewhere. But what really strikes it to me is, if you're not in cyber, put yourself as my kids call them, normies, and you're told that you've got to put MFA on your device because an APT group might do a DDoS against you. What are you on about? Do this because bad people do bad things and they're looking at you at the moment. Well, all right, I'll go and do that right now. Why do we have to have these nonsense phrases that mean zero to anyone apart from our little echo chamber makes us sound intelligent? It's just nonsense. I wrote this year's 35 in literally an hour. That's all it took, an hour, and I'd written 35 out. That gives you the level of BS this year. I'm fairly confident that walking any major conference this year, I will have ticked off everything. Not just the ones that appear on the bingo card. So for those who don't, you can play the bingo card online and it doesn't pull all 35 together, or just print it out yourself and just literally tick them all off. I reckon I can print them all off and literally just tick them all. And it's terrible. We already know this year, OT is the big phrase that all the security vendors are talking about. But when they start talking about printers, you go, "That's not OT." "Oh, yeah, it is." No, it's not. It's not. OT security, just write it down the list. There's another one. But yeah, it's terrible because industries missed the point. the people who are buying this aren't necessarily cyber people. And we're giving them cyber jargon. If you go to the doctor and say, I've hurt my finger, actually. I don't want to hear some Latin word thrown at me. He's going to say, do you want a plaster? That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear, oh, yes, you have this rare disease and it's called a blah, blah, blah at you. Just give me a plaster. Why are we selling this overinflated buzzword bingo hype? It doesn't work. Tell them what they're going to buy.
And for vendors out there that are perhaps more established, what other advice would you give them in terms of a better approach?
Yeah, so I actually was very nice this year. So yes, I'll be running buzzword bingo, but I have got a second blog that will come out with it. And that is where I'll be giving some slightly more actionable intelligence. I'll use the intelligence range, got to follow my own hype. I'll be running a second one, which is more constructive phrases you could use, which actually mean things to people. I was just thinking of one just now. It's like, it's really terrible. It's like that human firewall one that we all brutally see every year. Okay, well, what's the opposite? What is the opposite of human firewall? What's a human firewall meant to do? So why don't we talk about, I don't know, securing people, not securing systems?
Yeah, I've seen Gartner tag things up at the moment as human risk management. So I think that's going to be something that we're probably going to see at a few events. And on that, events, tech conferences, what sort of 2 or 3 keywords or bullshit bingo phrases do you think are going to come up in your opinion? And what one should we be focusing on?
I'm going to give you my 3 favorites because I was reading it before I came in. I want you to, if you want, just one each, give me your favorite or hated buzzword that you hear as well. My first one is post-quantum. I have seen that already. We haven't even got quantum. We're already on post-quantum, so good luck with that one. I have no idea. Quantum's still 20 years away, and yet we're still talking about the quantum apocalypse happening. So, well, good luck. But yeah, definitely OT's that. OT pen testing. Yep, there is someone out there touting right now OT pen testing. I just want to know, is it a man with a spanner who comes up and just like ratchets something around a little bit and go, there you go. Could have hacked that. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's my favorite one at the moment is OT and the bubble that comes around. And the last one, I think I did it last year, which is next gen AI. We've barely got
big one that last year. Big one.
It's like we barely have Gen AI. Now we're in next gen AI. What's it? Next generation 2? The thing that doesn't exist. What? It's just mind blowing. But yeah, those
AI driven tools, and then that will be we're guilty of that ourselves a bit. To be fair, Warren and I, we're AI driven tools, and I think definitely going to be a lot with everything that's going on. Definitely a lot of nation state actors. That's going to be all with the geopolitical climate. I think we'll hear that a lot.
Of course, and look on the focus of events. Of course, you're Mancunian, Jay's a Mancunian. DTX itself is fast approaching. So why are events such as DTX, Manchester and London, why are they crucial for developing a sense of community and, of course, helping to drive innovation, Stuart?
100%. Love DTX Manchester specifically because it's right next to where I work, so it's dead easy to get to. But no, I like DTX Manchester because it does feel different to all the other cyber events. So I'm going to 3 big events this year. DTX Manchester is one. There's definitely a different buzz around it. You go to the big one down in London, I won't name it for their own glory points, but it's just a vendor fair. Manchester doesn't feel like that. It definitely feels like a community. It feels like a bunch of people who've all got together. A bit like a makerspace almost. So we've all got together and said, let's solve some stuff. And, we see like Cyber House Party there who, they literally help with creating that community feel as well in the background as well. And I think that's a really big difference with DTX is it has that community feel to it. I'm not going to slate DTX London. Last time I was there, I didn't feel that as much down there, but I think that's the London weighting happening there. London doesn't have that sense of belonging and community. Manchester's built on it, whereas London has definitely has a different vibe.
Yeah, of course. And, for those that, if it's their first time attending, what advice and guidance would you give those individuals? Because, me personally, I understand some of these events can be overwhelming and overstimulating for professionals. So from your perspective, what advice would you give those that are attending for the first time?
Well, you're probably going to get fed up with saying there's a blog for that. I have got a blog on how to attend conferences. I would say my golden rules are this. Before you turn up, know why you're there. and make sure you hit that objective. So if you're there to learn, floor walk for a bit, but go and sit in all the seminars, plan your day properly, actually have a calendar, know where you go. Don't have it digitally. Wi-Fi is always rubbish at these events. So have it in paper format, know your calendar for the day, where you're going to be, get familiar with it. When you arrive on site, floor walk. Do the perimeter walk, know where all the venues are, where the toilets are, where the cup of tea is, get your lay of the land. Then when you go into all your event, all the spaces, you know where you're going. That's absolutely critical. Know the lay of the land, know where you're going. The third one is, it's amazing what a smile can do. The amount of people you can see walking around an event, and literally it's like they've just been thrown out into the lion's den. They're either scared or they just don't want to be there. You go knowing, I know why I'm here, and I want to make some friends while I'm here. I want to make some connections. So, gentlemen, inside suit pocket, you've got a little pocket down at the bottom, haven't you? Inside your suit, you've got a little pocket at the bottom. Put your business cards in there. Take business cards. I've got a raft of business cards in my bed. In fact, if it's permitted to use props, that's 2 months of business cards. That's my trade, is business cards.
And for all those perhaps trying to protect the environment, there's some digital business cards. I'll put a link in the bio after.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like the paper ones, and I know, yes, environment, I get that, but I can write on them and say, I spoke to Warren about this. So when I come away, I mean, when I did InfoSec 2 years ago, 54 meetings in 3 days. I can't digitally keep on top of that. So having the business card to say, right, I spoke to Warren about this thing, right? Dear Warren, great to catch up with you. I hope your hangover's feeling better now. P.S. We should definitely have that brew, probably a little less alcoholically this time. And it was great meeting with you. P.S. Yeah, I do know that guy. Let's have a conversation. All of a sudden, you've got a targeted message back, and it's one-on-one. Yep.
And Jay, from your perspective, you've attended a lot of these meetups over the last several years. Are there any things individuals perhaps should be avoiding when they're going to these events? You know, what should they be not doing?
Well, I think, treat it as going somewhere to learn and to make connections and to establish relationships. I think, avoid sale. Personally, that's, there's nothing worse than being sold to, especially in a clumsy fashion when you're at these events. But I think, it's about, I think as Stuart said, choosing what you want to get, the takeaways you want from the events before you go, picking wisely. It is quite overwhelming, the amount of different speakers, and the timetables can be quite fast and furious. So I think just choose wisely, and like most things, prepare in advance. And I think that is absolutely the best way to get the best from these things, especially over a 2-day period, for sure.
No, I certainly agree with you. And Stuart, my last question around obviously events. You've obviously worked with a number of startups and scale-ups, how can they engage with the likes of DTX, and how important are exhibition spaces for smaller organizations?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, definitely. I would say before you go and buy a stand, floor walk it, go and actually feel the environment. Every company has its own pulse. It's got its own feeling about it. Some of them like having that space where they want to interact. If you're a shy founder, the last thing you want to do is take a stand in a really busy hall where 10,000 people are going to come past your stand, especially if you've got something interesting to do. Maybe floor walk it for a year, get used to the lay of the land and have a feel of it. DTX is different. It does, as I say, it has that community feel about it. You can definitely have some different conversations. But yes, for startups, DTX is a cracking event. Definitely a great one actually to dip your toe in the water with. It's a little bit lower cost as well. Stands cost money. They do a lot of support to the startup community. So you do find there's some discounts out there as well if you ask nicely. But don't forget, that's the other thing. DTX are just a set of humans trying to do a job. So be nice to them and see what you can get from them. If you really want to push it up and you've got a bit of that, if you've just been given some investment, look at sponsorship. It's a great way to get your brand everywhere. And they're really good at getting brand out there as well. So DTX is one of the better ones for getting the brand on the noses of the attendees.
So Stuart, appreciate you sharing your perspective today on the show. So could you share with us a bit more about Hidden Text, your purpose, your mission, your vision?
So Hidden Text it's my own personal consultancy. It's not my day job. It's the evening and weekend job. Essentially, it's just there to help organizations with problems. And I leave it as generic as I possibly can. And the reason is because every organization is different and their problem statement is different. And sometimes they just need someone to sit down with them and say, help. Sometimes it's a can you do, and sometimes it's can you train, can you do this? And I like to leave it a bit more open so I can just sit down with people and have a half-hour conversation. Go, what's your problem statement look like? But yeah, it's one of my fun passion projects.
That makes sense. And what does the future hold for yourself, Hidden Techs, and of course your role within Manchester University?
I do own a little glass ball somewhere, so I should get my little glass ball out now. Uniwork's definitely going to keep me busy for a while. We've just got a cohort in at the moment, so I've got a new 12 startups for a 10-week project. So I'll be doing lots of, in fact, I've got 9 mentoring sessions to line up in the next week and a half. So definitely the day job's going to keep me busy. Hidden Text itself is just going to continue to organically grow. I'm not particularly pushing it too hard, but more thought leadership, more content out into the social medias. If I do things through the university, obviously I've got to go through a set of guidelines, which if it goes through myself, it's a lot easier just to represent that way. And also got a whole set of partners which are now on board as well, which is quite exciting for 2025, which hopefully that will grow a little bit as well. So yeah.
Congratulations on that respect. And for our listeners and our audience and community members that want to stay engaged with you, how else can they reach out to you?
Yeah, the easy 3. I am on Blue Sky. I have no idea what my name is on there. It's just Blue Sky. Find me. I'm out there. I think I'm on with my old Twitter name, which is SP Coulson. I still call it Twitter because, yeah, it's not X. It's called Twitter. But yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm probably one of the last diehards who'll be there till its dying day. Not for any other reason than it's just comedy gold to shout into a void and no one else is there. The biggest way to reach me is LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. I'm on there a lot. I repost a lot of stuff that I find interesting. I generally repost with comments. If you do have something interesting and I like it, I will not just hit the repost button. I'll actually give my comment on it on top. But yeah, that's the easiest way. Or through just generally Google me. I do turn up an awful lot of places.
Yeah, and to our audience, I encourage you to connect with Stuart. He's going to be speaking at DTX this coming April. He's also committed and contributing time towards a number of other events across the north. So certainly reach out to him, connect with him, and see what else is out there that might spike your interest.
Absolutely. And Stuart, listen, thank you so much for today. It's been a wonderful, wonderful chat. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure our listeners will have taken a great deal of value in this episode. If people want to continue the discussion and for further engagement, then as always, we invite you to join the Secure CyberConnect community, where we offer a range of collaborative solutions for both tech and security professionals at no cost. Expansive community access, mutual mentoring, online networking, and exclusive interviews and podcast episodes such as this, with panel discussions and masterclasses coming later in 2025. If you want to learn more, gain access to the community and any of our initiatives, please visit secure-recruitment.com/cyber-connect/. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
The Secure CyberConnect community invite you to join us at DTX Manchester on the 2nd and 3rd of April. We look forward to seeing you there.